Kelt-X fitness on your social media. If you're into this developmental part of the fitness industry and the growth around it, your algorithm might just have picked up Kelt-X. Hello and welcome to On the Rocks podcast with me, Coach Marshy. Welcome to this week's show, and have we got a good one for you? Hope everyone's doing well and your off season in the high rocks world is going well. But actually, as we know in this hybrid fitness racing space, what is the off season? And we might talk about that a little bit today as well, because with all these new races coming up, there are now an annual calendar of races that we can attend. So we're going to welcome in somebody that I hadn't actually seen in person, and I don't suppose anyone listening may have done either until today. Hello and welcome to the show, James. How are you, James?
I'm all right, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, no, really good. It's really good to have you on the show, and thanks for taking the time to come out. So I'm going to go back to my little intro there. Did I pronounce it right? Is that what this is, Kelt-X?
It is indeed, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And just for everyone that's listening, before we even introduce who you are, just tell us, what is Kelt-X?
In regards to the race or in regards to the word?
Well, do both. Let's do both.
Okay, so the word itself, it's obviously we're in Cornwall, so there's a sort of Celtic twist to what we're doing. And the Cornish sort of word for Cornwall is Kerno, so that's where the Celt comes from. And then the X is sort of like the cross-discipline, cross-training element of this sort of hybrid fitness race, really. So yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is a hybrid fitness race that comes from sort of like a high rocks, CrossFit, strength and conditioning background. So sort of like a mixture of genres all into one. And so it's a period of run work followed by a period of station work. So seven runs, 7 stations, and it's all indoors in the mighty county of Cornwall.
Yeah, so we're going to get into that a little bit later on in terms of like where, how it's staged, etc. But for you as an individual, sort of who are you and what's your background in this sort of area?
So my background is I've always been involved in sport ever since I was a wee young lad, really. So my background is in strength and conditioning, in rugby, in pro rugby. But it's not just me on this sort of race team, really, or for Kelt-X. There's actually 5 sort of race directors. So we have me and my business partner, and I own a gym, a performance gym in Cornwall called Crev Performance. And there's another 2 lads from Newquay who own a gym called Hybrid Hub, which is just about to come out. And another lad called Tom, and he is the head of rugby for Exeter Chiefs Truro College. So yeah, there's 5 of us behind this. It's not just my pretty face. So I need to tell you about those boys as well. So yeah, that's the background from all 5 of us. Albeit short and sweet.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to know. And I've got a burning question from sort of my perspective, and I think people that follow my show regularly will realise that since the whole hybrid scene and this coming into the world, I've become very passionate and very obsessed with it. And when I see something like Kelt-X come onto the scene, and I see that, like I said in the intro, the algorithm's starting to show me that, my questions start to roll in my head, and I'm like, okay, this is Cornwall based. Has this been conceived partly because you're a long way from the big boy races at the moment in terms of travel? And you can't be the only ones that want to do hybrid fitness racing in Cornwall, right?
Yeah, exactly that. That's sort of that's where the idea came from, is that, you know, the sort of hybrid fitness racing's been around for, you know, a number of years, not massively, it's reasonably new, but it all seems to stem up into the sort of big cities, which is away from us. And in regards to hybrid racing or hybrid fitness, that to me has been on the scene for years. You know, this is something that I've been involved with strength and conditioning for rugby. You know, the rugby essentially are hybrid athletes in themselves. You know, there's lots of different levels of fitness within rugby players, and they run. So, you know, that sort of hybrid fitness is been, and it's deep rooted in Cornwall. Cornwall's massive for rugby, as you will probably know. And hopefully your listeners will probably know. So there's it's almost like a little bit of a hotbed down here for that sort of race scene, but everything seems to be miles away. So that was where the thought process initially came from. So yeah, you're bang on the money there.
Yeah, no, I just think anyone who's got a logical brain might have worked that out a little bit, and I'm glad that is kind of it, because I thought I was off on a tangent, but actually, no, fair enough, and that makes a lot of sense to me. You know, anyone who's been on holiday down in Cornwall from elsewhere in the UK or across the world will realise that really mileage-wise, it's not the mileage, it's the road structure. Once you get sort of down to Exeter, it all becomes a little bit small, and you know, you get stuck behind the wrong thing and you're there for hours. But, you know, let's not put off people for coming down there. You know?
Yeah, fair.
I think we're potentially planning on coming on the train. We're going to give that a go.
Yeah.
You know, I guess we can work while we're on the train, whereas when you're driving, you can't actually work. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thought about flying, but we'll train it. We'll give it a go. So,
yeah, fair play.
So it's quite clear why the idea perhaps started to rise up. But where did that kind of idea that we want to put a race in with this format in Cornwall, what was the sort of the earliest memory of that for you?
I discussed it with my business partner at first, actually, at Crev, and we were discussing how we could put something on, what we could put on. And there's two other lads that involved, the guys from Newquay. They have put on like a lower level sort of hybrid fitness race down here already. Those guys, High Rocks, the same as myself and my business partner. So I started to discuss it with Dylan, who is, like I said, the business partner at Crev. And then I gave Josh and Luke a shout over in Newquay, and also the guy that owns Hybrid Fitness Apparel, who's a friend of mine anyway, who's very CrossFit orientated, but sort of like wanted to break into the hybrid fitness scene after me speaking to him. So those were the early discussions. Tom, who the other lad, there's loads of us. The other lad who is with Exeter Chiefs. I know him really well. I've done lots of S&C courses with him, different bits and pieces, know him from way back. I actually rung him to speak to him about some equipment because he runs a lot of CrossFit competitions down here. It's very, very CrossFit based. In fact, one of probably the first people to get involved in CrossFit in Cornwall, way back. Spoke to him and asked him about some equipment, and he was like, I want to be involved in that. And that's where it all came from. So, right back from looking at what we could do to maybe speaking to some other guys, seeing what they could bring to the table. And then we formed that sort of 5 race directors and a main sponsor. And then Kelt-X was born.
Yeah, so a few bums on different seats within an organisation that you've created, which I guess my initial reaction listening to that response is that's good. That could give it some sort of like longevity as well, because us business owners of gyms, here you are doing your race. Here I am doing a podcast with gym owners, one-man bands that grew a little bit. We are busy people, and it sounds like you're all busy people as well, just as we did the pre-show there. And I think when you've got a team already set and there's so many of you in on this, I think it makes sense to me now why I'm seeing what I'm seeing on the Instagram, the branding and the consistency and the, that if I could give you that feedback early on, that's catching the eye. That's catching the eye from the outside. Is the consistency's there, because sometimes we see like ideas come out and then their Instagram's pretty poor and their updates are pretty poor and you don't really think it's got any legs, whereas you guys are starting to convince the world, I think, that there's some legs on this.
Yeah, for sure. That to be fair, that our idea was, we knew what we wanted to do with the race. That was through lots of experience, and like I said, wanting to pull on different genres and do something that nobody was doing out there, which I can talk to you about in a little bit more. But the big thing was that we wanted to brand it. We wanted to not sell the brand, but make the brand, and have people attracted to that and then look further into it. So that's what we did. We actually did that. We said, right, what do we want to call it? We sat down all together. We flashed through some stuff. There's guys pinging things around on Canva, bits of paper, came up with a name. And then we used the guy at Hybrid who's done all Hybrid's branding. And he took us through this whole journey, which was massively interesting process. And then at the end of it, he spat out what you see on Instagram in regards to our branding. We came up with the name and all the slogans, and then he put it and brought it to life. And as soon as he was so good, as soon as he did that, everybody just looked at each other like wide mouthed and went, wow, that's exactly what we are. And, it's all stemmed from there, really.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting to hear, and really cool as well that you say there's a journey been involved in the process as well, which again, it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to pop this up and use ChatGPT and see what happens. It's
for sure.
There's been a process to it. What is interesting though is, like we said, when I didn't really know who was meeting me the other side of the camera today, and the other brand, you could argue in the very early conception days of their products, and we won't name them all because there's so many of them now, but there was a face. There was a Mo and Christian, there was a Jason Curtis, there was a Yancey Culp for Decker, for example. There were faces, and you guys have done it differently. And I'm not going to pass comment on whether it's good or bad. I just think it's definitely something that's been noticed, that you guys are taking a different approach to it. Have you got any thoughts on that, about a face of the brand, or not really? I know there's some ambassadors already in place. Is that right?
Yeah, we haven't really. It was, like I said, it was more, we wanted the brand and the race to speak for itself, and that's what we're all about. We were all about, right, this is it, like you just said, it wasn't something that we just thought, right, let's put on a race, let's put on something and made it up and then got it out there. That wasn't what it was. We were like, right, okay, let's discuss this. Let's pick apart what we love, what we don't particularly love about different races around the world and fitness, and bring, put our stamp on it. Like I said, different genres to attract different people from different sports. But we wanted to streamline it and put it into our race rather than a face. So that was the basically what you're seeing and what you're saying is exactly what we set out to do. So it's great to hear that, actually.
No, it's interesting because, like I said, we've just connected via the Instagram message process, and again, there's no real identity there either, which is been a nice mystery for this process. Obviously, I'm giving you sort of live feedback as we record, and I think it's interesting that what you went for is my experience, which is really cool. And like I said, I'm sure the algorithm, if that's what we're calling it, is going to show people this from the hybrid fitness racing space. If they, they follow certain accounts, certain ambassadors from other places, they're going to have seen this brand now. So there's a million and one questions, but I want to go on to the one that you just brought up. This idea of different genres and how you constructed like the workout and the actual race itself, how that came together from this, like you mentioned it a couple of times, the genres of different things, and you said you looked at other races and looked at what people liked and didn't like, and tell us a bit about that. How was it made?
So there are loads of races out there. There's lots of different fitness competitions, and what we definitely didn't want to do was try and copy and replace a couple of things from different fitness competitions. That wasn't what this was. So I've raced a few Hyroxes, a fair few. The other two boys, Luke and Josh, have, and obviously my business partner, we're both doubles partners. And like I said, Tom's into CrossFit, but coming from an S&C background, I see, unfortunately, sometimes I see sort of like discrepancies within these races that are maybe, just like you said, just right, we want to put on a race and what we're going to do, that will do. So I wanted, personally, and the other boys wanted to have things in there that have got merit towards us, and also that can be judged with good standards. That was massive for us as well. So the ease of doing that and what movements that we could put in there. Also, we wanted it to be accessible to train at any gym, as long as they've got somewhere to run, a ski, row, and a bike. There wasn't any massive space that you needed, because a lot of our movements, yes, they're in motion, but they're still, if that makes sense. So you don't need like long lengths of grass and different bits and pieces that you would need with different other races. So it was a whole mixture of stuff that came out and brought what you see. We wanted to take some bits out that we've experienced ourselves that aren't a great spectacle to look at sometimes. Maybe a couple of stations that are a bit, you don't really navigate towards those if you're watching sort of Hyrox, different bits and pieces. And we wanted to bring in the triathletes, the CrossFitters, the Hyroxers, the runners. So a whole different ball game, rather than just making it, maybe a running race with a few stations. We wanted to put some heavy work in there, some CrossFit related movements in there. Like I said, the bike in there to bring in sort of the triathletes and the bike guys, and maybe go, hold on a minute, there's a bike and a run in there. Maybe I could have a go at this, So those it was amalgamation of a lot of stuff and a lot of thought process that went into it. And it's some staple S&C movements there with American kettlebell swing. I mean, they've been around for ages, since I got into functional fitness, which was many moons ago. So yeah, that's what it is. Just an amalgamation of all those different things that I've just talked about. Yeah,
no, it's funny. It's funny the bits you've actually mentioned there specifically. Actually, the bike erg. Am I right to assume this is concept 2 ergs?
Absolutely. There's no one does them better.
Cool. Yeah, we're good with that. I like that. We're biased sometimes, and I like to say that other brands are available, but I'm very biased too. I agree. Nobody does it better than them.
No.
The bike erg. Now, I've had a good look round because I didn't want to ask you this question without making sure, but I've checked the big boys that we know well, and I've checked around, and obviously, say something like Athex Games, which might bridge a gap between Hyrox and CrossFit a bit. They may use a bike erg from like 1 year, and they might not. But in terms of a set format race, this is looking like the first use of a C2 bike, where you're going to go and replicate the race and redo the race, or do it in a series. Like, this is the first use of the actual C2 bike that I think we're probably seeing here in the UK. And we're starting with that after the first 800 meter run. That is station 1. So you're talking about 100 meters and then 2.5K. To start us off. I mean, that hits the triathlon, guys.
100%. Exactly that. That's exactly what we were thinking.
Yeah. And then you run again for the 800 meters again. And then the American kettlebell swing, that we've discussed that amongst my staff here. In fact, recently, about half an hour before I started this actual call with you, we were saying that you're the first one to bring in a kettlebell swing in terms of the hybrid space that we can find where it will be judgeable. And you mentioned that a minute ago. It's got a clear top and it's got a clear bottom, right?
100%.
You fully extended at the top, and you've what, through the legs at the bottom? Is that going to be the standard?
Yeah. So you need to see sort of the bell back through the hips, and as long as the torso stacked and we're punched out overhead, we're good. Obviously, there'll be some sort of anatomical discrepancies in that. There's some people that are just so stacked lat wise they can't physically get overhead. But as long as everything's stacked and in line, there'll be a generic rule that everybody must hit. Of course, that's what it's going to be. A bit like the wall ball hip crease below knee. Do you know what I mean? That's a generic rule that everybody has to hit. But it is, like I said, it's in motion. It's a power movement. It's a functional movement. Functional. I'm not too sure I like that word, but it is functional. But it's something that has been repeated over and over and over again in CrossFit competitions. You know, the kettlebell swing, Russian kettlebell swing, American kettlebell swing is that staple movement for a lot of gyms that have been around way before, you know, sort of High Rocks came onto the scene, and they were doing their own sort of functional fitness. So it's a great movement. It's one that we sort of deliberated on in regards to load, but also one that people can get their teeth into. We got it out there nice and early. So people go, hold on a minute, what's this American kettlebell swing? How can I do this? You know, they had sort of like 3.5 months, or will have 3.5 months to master that movement and learn it if they already don't know it. So a lot of CrossFitters were pleased that that's come in. So that's good.
Yeah. So the coach of mine who I was discussing it with, we were really buzzing off the kettlebell swings, because I was explaining that we were meeting on a call, and we were talking about the American kettlebell swing, and her background before she became a coach, before she moved to this area in terms of geographically to come and train with us and now become a coach, was a CrossFit background. And she saw it and she was like, yes, like it's in there. And then we jumped that in our gym, we seem to lack to remember to do any at some, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you use the term functional movement. If we're a functional fitness gym, or a box, whatever, we're not a CrossFit, but an American swing is a huge part of that and should be. And in the race, we're looking at it going, oh yeah, we do like those on a Friday, but we don't do them on a Tuesday. You know, we should get them involved. So, you know, and my mate Tatey, one of our members, he loves it. He loves a kettlebell over, you know, full American swing compared to the sort of conventional swing. So that's cool. I've got to be honest, the first 2 stations for me and the 800-meter run prior to each one, I saw it and I was like, cool, I want to have a go at that. I didn't even look at the rest. You know, I didn't even bother looking at that. There was wall balls at the end.
I do.
I was like, yeah, we're good. I like the first 2. They're cool. Go through it for me. The burpee broad jump return.
Yeah.
Needs to keep bringing up comparisons, but in my head, that was High Rocks PFT jump over a line and turn around and come back. Is that what that is?
Yes, pretty similar to that, but again, sort of pulling in a little bit more into the the CrossFit sort of a way of doing things, sort of a bar facing burpee. But also a massive thing for me and the other boys was that there's such a lottery. Burpees are such a lottery in regards to High Rocks. You know, you see all sorts of different things going on. Whereas it is static, still in motion, but very, very judgeable. There's nobody getting in your way. There are certain standards that you've got to hit. If you hit the line or your hands hit the line, chest doesn't hit the floor, no two-footed takeoff. There'll be one judge per station on that. So you'll have an individual judge, which was a big thing for us, that we can really, really sort of like judge those standards and make sure everybody's doing those properly, and everything's fair game with them. But yeah, getting the sort of bar facing burpee element to it as well. So how could we do that? Made a no rep zone in there rather than obviously having a bar out to jump over, so it makes it a little bit safer. But yeah, that was where that came from. And actually they're super tactical, making sure that your parallel feet for takeoff. You see a lot of over the bar burpees, over the line burpees, that sort of stuff. And guys they turn in the air and then they jump staggered footed. Yes, you can turn in the air, but you won't be able to jump staggered footed. So you've got to play around with that and with your partner, different transitions, how you're going to transition, how many you're going to do. So yes, it was, we're trying to make it judgeable, but also tactical.
So draw us that out. What does that actually look like? Is there a line?
Yeah. So there'll be a 20 centimeter sort of no rep zone, which will be in yellow and black hazard tape as such. So the old floor is lava sort of stuff. But any fingers on the line, any hands in the line, anybody landing with feet in that zone will be a no rep, I'm afraid. So it's not a massive line, but it's something. It's a standard to hit, and that's what we wanted.
That's really interesting, and that's really cool. Actually, first reaction to that is the no rep zone. I like that because it's black and white, and I think you highlighted why there can be issues with burpee board jumps and burpees in these competitions. And I think I'm going to put it out there. Apologies to the guys if they are listening, but some of my fellow podcasters love a video picking up on standards. They love to have a go at standards. And I think you've just probably found a way to reduce that.
Absolutely.
Like me online or other people online that love to get a video from some random person's Instagram who was filming their mate and goes, "Oh, look at that crap standard." They didn't see all the good stuff throughout the race.
Yeah.
They like to be critical, don't they, mate? And I think it's good to see. It's good to see that you thought about that and how that would work with a no rep zone. I guess you've tested it and whatever, but I guess the real test will come on event one, right?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
And let's kind of, I'm sure we'll touch on the other stations in a bit as we go through as well, but let's go into event one now then. So the first event is clearly available and out there. You only got to go on your Instagram to see that. Where is it? When is it? Is that, I think you touched on it already. Is it indoors, outdoors? Where's the run? That sort of thing. Tell us a little bit about that side of it.
Yeah, no worries. So it's on the 11th of October, and it's at the Royal Cornwall Showground, and there's an event centre in there. So that's sort of like the main showpiece of Cornwall when it comes to events. They hold like the Royal Cornwall Show there, for instance, which is a massive event in Cornwall, sort of agricultural event amongst numerous other things. So yeah, it's in there. There are two huge sheds in there. I think it's 36,000 square feet of room we are. So there's two sheds. Obviously, you can run from one into the other. So all the run is indoors. I won't tell you how many laps it is at the moment, because that'll sort of that'll ruin it a little bit. But what I can tell you that it will do is it will not just be a running race. So there will be some things to navigate within those laps. I'm not talking about obstacles or water or anything like that, but it'll become apparent when you're there. We wanted to obviously the weather's so predictable anyway that it's a massive grounds around there, and the grounds around there are lovely. There's some decent views from there. But what we didn't want to do is put an event that would be outdoors based, and then as soon as it starts raining, everybody's like, right, brilliant. It looks like it looks like the competition at Berlin or whatever. That looked just no fun at all. So yeah, that's where it is. It's a good spot. It's a lovely spot. It's on the way to Weybridge in Cornwall, so down this neck of the woods. But yeah, it's one of those ones that you'll have to come down and experience it. And it's the real magic is going to be when you walk in the door. Hopefully you've seen what we do, what we've done on Instagram and our branding. We've got a really premium sponsoring Cornwall Signs who go around the country with Snostell Brewery and different bits and pieces. They're massive. And they've come on board and they're going to make it look as elite as our Instagram does, really. So, everything matches what we're all about, a premium race. But but within a county that nobody really sort of ventures down to for that sort of thing.
Yeah, let's touch on that then. Are you hoping that we all flood down to Cornwall? We seem to want to do it on holiday.
Yeah, to a certain extent. It's something that we haven't really brought out, but we've got the option actually to go to 2 days. We've pulled it as a 1-day event at the minute. We're actually really, really close to selling out that 1 day. We're about 10% tickets left, with 2 months to go. So yeah, we do want people to come down to Cornwall. It's a great county, and it is a hotbed for a lot of things that people sort of maybe necessarily don't think are down here. But it's big on tourism. It's one of those places that thrives on people coming down here, and that's essentially what we want to do for the flagship race. And we love it. We love living here. We love our county, and we want people to experience that and have a decent time and come down with their communities. That is all what we are about. We're about community. That's what we want to do. Yeah,
and you talk about the area. I mentioned holidays as well. It's set up for the people to come down. There'll be accommodation, right? We're not in a school holiday. There's going to be places for people to stay. I did have a quick look on the map. I think there's even a local travel lodge and a few other major brands around as well. Because some people can be a little bit fussy. I get all that. But when it comes to not in terms of financials, but in terms of demographic, from this early data of entry that you're seeing, what are people traveling?
Yeah, there's a fair few. I mean, so our ambassadors have been great. We wanted to bring on guys that are elite athletes, but also not just elite athletes, elite movers, and elite community leaders. That's what we wanted to do, and those guys have done exactly what we wanted them to do. They've sort of got the word out there, not attracted to it from their Instagram millions of followers and left, right, and centre. That to me, obviously being at the age I am, is not the be all and end all, especially as an elite athlete. In fact, I think most of the elite athletes that you see out there have very little Instagram followers because they're just concentrating on doing what they're doing and being elite, which is great. So they've done their bit and their sort of due diligence on what we're all about, and I've spoke to each and every one of them, and the guys have as well, and they've got their own little communities. Some of them are quite big actually, they've all bought into it. They're all coming down. And people traveling from all over the place, really. I think we've got a couple of guys coming over from Wales as well. The gym's over there, which is good because you've got sort of like the Celt link there as well. The Welsh and the Irish and the Scottish. Hopefully they love the Cornish, so which is great. But yeah, we've got quite a few people that are traveling. That's what I was saying, Neil. The big thing with what we want to do is we want our Kelt-X community to be a community of sub-communities, if that sounds correct, that we know, as I know as well as you do, that our business in regards to our independently owned gyms rather than the big commercial gyms that you see out there is all about community. That's what it is. And if we can give something to those communities in regards to something to aim for, a goal to aim for, then that's only going to benefit those gyms and keep consistency and membership retainment high. So there are it's a big thought process of what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, we've got people traveling, but we've got people traveling in big groups, which is great, and that's what we want.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, and I think you're right. I think you're saying there about community. Possibly it's why I'm here as well. I'm here with sort of a couple of hats on, really, and part of the attraction is what's been said around community. And I like what you said there. Actually, the idea of a big community bringing lots of smaller communities together.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. And I think people that own gyms like our gyms probably really can appreciate what that means without needing to kind of us to explain that. For those that don't really understand it, they probably just have never really been part of one of these sorts of gyms, and that's why they don't really get it. But I'm sure if many people walked into our type of gyms, they would realize just straight away that, yes, you're coming to train, but actually a lot of what this is about the community within this gym or this box or whatever.
100%.
And it actually, you know, from a kind of business point of view, that you go to a corporate gym and the membership sales manager wants to talk about the word retention all the time, when actually in our sort of gym, the retention is the community, right? That retention people all the time. And we don't.
It looks after itself, doesn't it? You know, it's organic. It doesn't. If you're concentrating on chasing paper and numbers, you're doing something wrong. You're in the wrong game, especially with what we are. You know, being involved in sport and being involved in fitness for all my life. I'm not an individual sport person. There's definitely merit for that, and I love that. However, sport is being part of a larger thing, isn't it? And that's what attracts people that do what we do to the game, isn't it? And we want to keep that, and we want that to be what it's all about. Traveling with a group of people and training with a group of people with a common goal, like-minded, that want to work out with each other for physical, mental, social well-being. That's what it is, isn't it? That's exactly what we're on about.
Yeah, and I completely echo those words, and it's what I always say. The reason we're going to be down in Cornwall is because of Kelt-X and the actual event. That's why we're there. But actually, what we get out of it is a whole lot more than that race that's on that bit of, you know, on that sign or on that billboard. It's a lot more than that.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty obvious to me, and should be, hopefully, I would imagine, for a lot of gyms that are in this new world of hybrid fitness racing space. And I think, just rewinding to what you said, you know, we do all love Hyrox and Decker and Deadly Dozen and all everything else that's now there for us to go and participate in. But when these things are selling out instantly, we need more platforms. And actually, something that you're suggesting here is that this is like a bigger community of lots of little communities coming together.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like that's your USP. Am I right?
Yeah. To be honest, I think that's, and I think it should be everybody's. Then it doesn't make it so unique, but it's innate. We're massively people. You get people that say we're people orientated. We're not money orientated. We're genuinely people orientated. You know, whether we make money from our organization and what we do, I couldn't care less, to be honest, as long as it washes its face, brings everybody together, and something that we can go, we created that, we're part of it, and it's growing, and it's helping out other gyms across the country, that it's driving their retention levels, because everybody's got, as I said, a common goal, something to train for, and enjoying it. Like that's enough for us, guys. And that's what we said at the start. And we said that from the very get-go. So yeah, I think it should be everybody's.
Let's absolutely touch on that, because there is an affiliation program in place. You guys have been very forward in putting that out there as an option. And, you know, what you're saying there as well is the idea you flick onto like my website or someone's website and you look at the timetable and there it is, the Kelt-X class. Is that?
It's to promote that way of training and sort of to be honest, the way that people are training in functional spaces and hybrid spaces now is exactly what we're about anyway. So it's the big thing for us was to have something to aim for, to have a target-based training level at any level, whether you want to really compete or whether you just want to train and maybe compete and see how you go with it. But the idea is to have something there that drives your training process. And there's nothing like that. Again, coming from a sporting background, you know, you're part of the greater cause. When you don't have anything to train for, that's when you can sort of fall away from that a little bit. And a lot of fitness people sort of say fall off the wagon. And that's not what we want. We want everybody to be releasing your feel good hormones by training consistently. So the idea of affiliation was, there's a race that we're training for. That's what we want to do. We can get together as a group and train for that. That's the whole idea of it. And that was it in a nutshell. That was it. It's free. We didn't want to charge anybody for that. It wasn't like, right, you're going to pay this to be affiliated to this. It was like, right, if you want to be affiliated to it, great. Let's get the brand out there, so everybody's not buying into it monetary, but buying into it in regards to, this looks like a great sort of like community race event that we can all be part of. And it's not going to cost us anything, and we're going to get a bit of discount for the tickets and things like that. That's been one of our biggest successes, actually, was the affiliation scheme. We're in the UK, aren't we? If anything's free, everybody's keen for it. So, but people have jumped on that. It's been really good. So yeah, it's been a real success.
I'd be guilty of what I'm about to say, but everyone loved an affiliation flag to hold up him at the end of a workout or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, no, it's cool. So first event, tick. What it is, tick. Indoor race, got the workout, affiliation program, next gen.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's
interesting. Like, I'll be really upfront, and I like to be transparent to our listeners. I'm really sure how much of the show to kind of put to this, but you tell me, how important is this?
It's massive. Like, youth development is a conveyor belt of fitness, isn't it? I actually taught secondary PE for a while. That was my job. My wife is a PE teacher. She's a secondary education PE teacher. I've got three daughters. One of them is a high roxer. She's really decent. 13-year-old girl, can't access any what I would call sort of premium races, really. It's sort of something nobody really wants to touch. And I think that's just due to maybe being a bit worried about it, and being a bit sort of like, is this appropriate? It's absolutely appropriate. It is the pinnacle of everything, isn't it? I mean, how many young people play sport? It's massive. So why not introduce the hybrid fitness race and to those people who desperately want to get involved in it, and that's where that comes from. So 12 to 15, so we're talking secondary school. We obviously didn't go any lower than that. So both participants of that have to be either 12 to 15 years old. So you can't get your 25-year-old athlete rocking up with a 6-year-old or whatever it is, 5-year-old, and running around. So yeah, that's something that we want to truly take on and make a bit of a success. And those guys can then go on to compete and train and be around, our spaces, the spaces that we own, and come in with some real fundamentals rather than coming in from, a spanking new child that's just come out of school and it's like, I've never been to the gym before.
Yeah, so let's start with the kids bit, and with the question that can lead into the greater race part, the greater kind of outcome and how it works for each group of individuals, say. So I think what you just kind of said there is, if I've got a 12-year-old son or daughter, I could come and race with them. They would do their weights and I would do mine. Is that right?
No. So the next gen is that both participants need to be 12 to 15 years old. So it is purely a race for that age group. Then obviously, if you step into it's only doubles. Obviously, Kelt-X only doubles. Another thing that we wanted to put on, we wanted that as a shared experience. That's through a personal thing. Luke and Josh have both done singles races, high rocks, but they're the doubles partners, and myself and Dylan are doubles partners. And that was a big thing for us. We wanted that to bounce off. So the kids, or the next gen, I don't really like to call it kids, but the next gen was that 12 to 15. They both have to be that age. The distance is the same. reps are the same, but the loads are obviously smaller. Another thing for them was we didn't want, you know, a full-blown sort of male like myself running around the track at the same time as those guys are going. So they have their separate sort of race.
Yeah, no, I think you highlight a lot around that, actually, that the idea of a premium race not being available to them. Absolutely. Well, certainly not here in the UK.
No.
I think Deca are probably doing all right with it in the US, but they've not really brought it to this side of the pond with their Deca sort of package at the moment here. But as far as like that premium fitness race, this is a way to, like, and I'm thinking out loud on the spot here, guys that are listening at home, as a gym owner who wants to try and get some youth fitness in, 12 years old upwards, and you see this is an opportunity to put on a session, and you build it around these fundamentals, as you said, and you use that word. Let's not go too scientific on it, but you use the word fundamentals. There are some massive fundamental kinetic chains of movement that if you do these moves, you're ticking. I'm actually looking at it, guys that are listening to this. I'm looking at it on my phone at the moment on the actual workout. There are a lot of things in there that fundamentals of basic fitness movements, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
Rolled in to a gym session with the aim that we might all go down to Cornwall for a long weekend to, or, you know, as we talk about the future in a second, you know, go down to that part of the world to do this race at the end of it. I mean, that's like a half-term summer training block.
Yeah.
And then
taking exactly.
I think it's really cool. Again, I'm probably feeding back to you just as much as I'm asking questions, really. But yeah, no, I like it, mate. And have you had a lot of feedback on the kids side of things? You know, that next gen idea that they can come and join in.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some decent sort of elite. I say elite, like upper level guys. You know, my daughter herself works out. This isn't a classic case of pushy dad. You know, my daughter's great. Absolutely not. We couldn't be any opposite to that. Actually, we let our kids find their own way. You know, and guide them where we can. But she trains with us. She trains with us every Saturday. She's training now. You know, through the holidays. We've got some guys over at the Nuki where the guys were working before, that they need that outlet. They need something to train for, don't they? They like that. Like kids like flags, kids like patches, you know, kids like to be recognized for something that they're doing and rewarded for that. And that was the thought process behind it, and the feedback's been great. The only thing is that we brought it out and it's now become the summer holidays, so we were going to be getting this into schools just before, and logistics were quite tough, so we need to that's something that we need to push a little bit harder, actually, and get that out there and into the minds of young people, saying, look, you know, this is something that you can do. This is something that's not been out there for you to do, but this is where we're going to start with it. But yeah, the feedback's been great. Feedback's been really good. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to that one myself, just from my background. So it's great. Looking forward to my little girl going for it as well, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it's really cool, and hopefully we'll be there to capture it and see what is happening on that side of it as well. So
yeah.
This one excited me before when I was planning the actual interview, but actually now with what you've said, I'm really intrigued about the future. I'm intrigued about the future events. You mentioned money earlier about the race washing its own face, and you know, money's not the big driver. Let's just say anything's possible, and I appreciate you're one of 5 people that could answer this question. So I'll take that into account. But let's say there is absolutely zero barriers and money's not an issue, opportunity is not an issue. What is the immediate future, and then where could you and how big would you choose to take this?
So we want to, at the moment, make it a Southwest race series. Like I said, there's nothing down this way. It sort of almost stops at London. You've got Cardiff. Well, I raced in Cardiff. That was probably the closest race that we've been to. So we want to. That's in regards to High Rocks, but we want to go to. We're actually looking at Exeter in a couple of weeks when we go up to visit the ambassadors. We're going to go up and train with those guys and visit them and speak to them and spend some time with them. So we're going to go up to Exeter on the way there. So that's the sort of next spot that we're looking at. Not sure I should be saying that now, but that's where we're looking. And then hopefully we'll look up at Bristol and make it a 3-race series. And that's sort of like the immediate future that we're looking at. Obviously the big thing is just to get this right and do what we're doing and put it on and to the best of our abilities. But that's the plan. That's where we're looking at going. So yeah, if money was no object, I don't think that would change that, to be honest. I think that we'd possibly do the same thing, but maybe put on a few more days with that. So you could just make the categories bigger. There's a lot of fitness orientated organizations that I believe that I've got too big, too quick, sort of concentrated on the money side of it, and the community side of it's maybe fallen away. And that is one thing that we're really, really aware of, and something that just doesn't bring me any pleasure. And, the boys, it doesn't bring them any joy or pleasure to do that. They want to do this because they basically just want to put on a really good race and get everybody going at it. We don't want anything to distract from that. So I can imagine that we probably stay the same, but just make it a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, and I'm putting a lot of things together in my head as you say that, and I hear what you're saying, and I think it's great. And I think let's just take football. We love rugby, and I'm sure we'll watch what's going on over in Australia at the moment and whatever. But let's take football. Football reaches every corner of the earth, and I heard Christian and Mo over at High Rocks say about this idea of High Rocks becoming this world sport. And they're probably going to achieve it, to be fair to them. However, due to the setup and the nature of that type of event, you're not going to reach extremities or, every city or whatever. But when you start putting like you guys into the mix, and you're down in the Southwest, you start putting like other events and companies into the mix. If we don't think of it as hybrid, if we don't think of it as High Rocks, and we think of it as hybrid sport, and hybrid fitness racing, if we're going to stick with that, or conventional fitness racing, as some like to refer to it as, like if that's going to become a worldwide sport, it does need to be accessible everywhere. And I would argue anyone from the UK that understands the geographical processes of the UK, maybe the Highlands in Scotland, and you guys down there in Cornwall, there are some extremities where there will never be a High Rocks because there's just not somewhere to put it. And there's never going to be an arena decker necessarily or whatever, or hybrid games or anything like that. But you guys, if you look after that bit, then people are hybrid fitness racing, right? So maybe there's a picture of like a World Cup of fitness racing or something like that incorporates all these different brands, and you just look at what you guys have come up with so far and the premium professionalism of which you've shared that, in my opinion. You guys are now covering a part of the world that unless you're going up the sort of M5 and up to Cardiff or Birmingham, wherever you're going, they're your closest races for like High Rocks. That's frustrating from someone who's really passionate about it. But now, anyone in Cornwall, you've got one. You've got you've got the event to go to, and I think that should be. It's early days for you guys, but we'll see how it goes when you get there. But that should be acknowledged, right? I think that's I mean, we'll acknowledge it for you. We think it's we noticed, and we're really involved in many. We have many hats as the sort of Purple Army, as we've become branded by others. We didn't give ourselves that name, but we loved it. We love the Purple Army, and we'd love to bring the Purple Army down to and test ourselves. So yeah, I think it's really good, mate. And I think, you know, I've probably talked more on this episode than I do on others, because I feel like I've fed back to you in the process of asking the questions. But it's really interesting. So what would be the last thing you said to anyone who's listened to this? Normally we would do a kind of top 3 tips, but it's not relevant really for this one. So what would you say to people, the last thing you could say about Kelt-X and the idea of Cornwall and everything else? What would you say about your brand and your event?
I'd say again, it's a community. We wanted to create a premium, and I've said that word a lot, I feel, but a premium race that is still community based, that everybody that trains in sort of independent gyms can come together and train for, and that is what we wanted to be. And hopefully from the feedback that I've got from you and actually the feedback from everybody else, that's what we are. And I want everybody that understands that and moves in those circles to come and take part in it, to come and be part of it. You know, just come and experience Kelt-X and experience our county, and that's where I want everything to be. And I know that I'm saying I'm speaking on behalf of all our guys. These are the conversations that we've had. You know, it is, we have the same thought process. That's what brought us together in the first place, you know? So yeah, that's what I'd want to do. Come down, be part of it, and be part of something that's not only a decent race, but is full of feel good.
Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, no, awesome. So thanks for your time and coming on today. I really appreciate it. And I love that we might have just uncanned a little bit of what you're about to people that are interested and want to know a little bit more. If people want to follow this journey, where should they look?
It's keltx.co.uk, so they can go onto the website, and I can send you a ticket link if people want to have a look at that. Also Instagram, of course. We're quite Instagram based. We didn't really go for any other. And everybody likes to look at pictures, don't they? So, you know, I'm a massive person for that. Or skip through the pages of books to look at pictures. So we just went through Instagram for our handles, really. So yeah, get and have a look at it and see what you think, and that's where we are.
So brilliant, James. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We meet in person very, very soon as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That'll mean that I travel down in October to hopefully get hands on as well.
On the trade.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. And to everyone who's watched or listened today, wherever it is you're getting your podcast, thanks for coming on. All the usuals. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Send it to someone who wants to know about this particular event. Just share for us, because we are just the small guys, and we do appreciate everyone that does subscribe to the channels and follows us and leaves the comments. But for today, thanks again, James, and thanks to everyone for listening. I hope to see you here again to discuss more on the rocks.